Hey everybody, today I'm taking a look at 5 Towers, which is a small box card game published by Pegasus Spiel. This one takes around 30 minutes to play and accommodates 2 to 5 players. Now before I get started on my quick review of 5 Towers, I want to give a shout out to the show sponsor KIENDA.co.uk, who are my go-to online retailer, and if you use the link in the show notes or the QR code, then you can get 5% off your first order. Okay, so 5 Towers is going to look like this when it is in motion, where each player will be trying to build 5 towers, believe it or not. And you can see that these towers are represented by these columns of cards of different types. And the way you build them, you need to go from the higher number up to the lower number, or place lower cards on top of higher cards. At the end of the game, you will score points for every card that you have. Your tallest tower will score another point for each card in that tower, and should you manage to place one of these 0 cards at the top of the tower, then every card of that tower will be worth another point. Now, the game is almost like a bidding style game, or bidding adjacent game, but you do not actually have currency. So each round you are going to reveal 5 cards from the center here. And in player order, you are going to bid how many of these cards you are willing to take. So let's just say, for example, you can see I've sped up the game here, and this is my current layout of cards. I might say that I'm willing to take 3 cards because, taking a couple of these would be pretty silly, because if I was to take, say, this 3 card, I'm going to jump from a 12 all the way up to a 3, which is not going to leave me much space. But, I might want to do that, but I might not. But from the current array here, I'm probably quite happy to take this 11 and 8 because I could place the 11 there and then I could place the 8 on top of that. And I'm quite happy to take the 9 because the jump from the 12 to the 9 isn't too big. So let's just say I did say 3 cards. I'd go to the next player who could either choose to pass, or they could choose to raise that amount by saying either 4 or 5 cards. And once everybody has either outbid each other or passed, then the player who has bid the highest amount of cards will take them. So let's just say in this example, I took the 3 cards and nobody outbid me. Therefore, again, I would take these cards and add them to their respective towers, like so. So you see the 11 goes on top of the 15 like this, and the 8 will go on top like this. Now, that might seem like a logical thing to do, but there are actually some extra wrinkles to this game, because whenever you successfully win a bid, you have the option to tear down one of your towers, or one of the top cards of your towers, which can be a good thing to do because it will give you more wiggle room and it will let you exploit some of the special cards here. So you can see that the 9s and the 8s have an extra symbol on them, and that means that with the 9, you can actually place it on top of any card. So therefore, I could have actually put the 9 on top of the 5 and therefore start again from 9. So it can give me some more wiggle room to place the cards. So in this example, when I took this 9 and 11, I could place the 8 first, because again, the 8 is lower than 15. And the 8 card allows you to place any card on top of it. So therefore, I could start again from 11. However, whenever you do tear down one of these cards at the start of your turn, then it's going to be worth a negative point. The second one will be worth negative 2 points. The third one will be worth negative 3 points, and so on. And any cards that were not bid in that particular round will get discarded and put to the side, and then of course you will draw a new bunch of cards ready to be bid on. And of course everybody is building their towers at the same time and building them at different rates. Now, once you have gone through the whole deck of cards, all the discards are going to be reshuffled, and you're going to go through them one more time. And after the deck's been gone through for the second time, then you will, of course, calculate your final scores again, scoring a point for every single card you have in front of you. Your tallest tower will be worth an extra point for each card in that tower. And, of course, if you get those 0 top towers like this, every card will be worth another point as well. So you have a potential to get 3 points per card, should it be your doubler plus the tallest tower. And at the end of the game, the player with the most points will be the winner. Okay, so let's share some thoughts on 5 Towers. Now, there are a lot of small box auction and bidding games out there, but I do like how this one feels different. And a big part of that is because you're not actually spending currency in this game. You're simply bidding how many cards you are willing to take. And because there aren't too many cards in the deck, and there are only 5 displayed at any time, those margins are quite tight, and you need to place your bids very carefully. because not only is for the reason that the cards get burnt through very quickly, and you want to make sure you at least get something built, but you need to kind of read the lay of the land out there and see what, you know what, I can take these 3 cards, but I'm pretty sure you are going to bid 4 cards. Therefore, I might be willing to tear down one of my towers just so I get those 4 cards, and then you get nothing. So sometimes it can actually be worth taking the hit of tearing down one of those towers and suffering those negative points, just so you can block your opponents out of taking the cards that you can take for yourself. And of course, everybody is building these towers at different paces. So therefore, you might think, you know what, I really can't afford to take that card because it jumps so far for me, but I know that you can. Therefore, I'll let you have this one. And then next time I will, maybe reassess and go from there. I also enjoy that in a 2 or 3 player game, there is only 1 copy of each card. So therefore you can use a good amount of deduction to know what is still in the deck, know what's coming up, and again, know what you can take or know what you can forsake. And even let one cards that you can let slip through the cracks, ready to be taken for the next phase in the game through that discard pile. Now, if you are playing with 4 or 5 players, there are duplicate copies of cards in the deck, again, to give you some more leeway and so that people can take the same cards more than once. Now, another twist I do like is these 9 and 8 cards, because they can actually add a new little tactical tricks you can put into the game. Of course, if you start from a high number and jump straight to a low number, like you might go from a 10 straight to a 5, if you took the 9 after it, you can put the 9 on top of the 5 and then build again from there to even extend your towers even further, and again to give you that little bit of wiggle room to and even that incentive to take those lower cards fairly early in the game. But of course, it does mean that the competition to get those particular 8 and 9 cards is going to get ramped up because they are so sought after and so useful. I also enjoy how there are different kind of viable approaches to winning this game, because I have seen players do well by kind of committing to a tower quite early and creating those big jumps, and then committing to these double cards, because that almost compensates for the cards you're missing out on by filling in those gaps. Or I've seen players kind of take their foot off the accelerator and wait for the cards to cycle through, maybe wait until players commit to towers, and then you can pick up all the remaining pieces and build at your own pace. So it is quite nice how you can take or tackle this game in different ways. So despite being a very simple system and a simple game in its entirety, there are some good decisions to be made here, and some good kind of leaps of faith and even gambles at time. Now that being said, I do have an issue sometimes with this game that there is an array of cards out there that you just can't take any of them, and it's going to fall right into the lap of your opponent. And it's going to make some decisions fairly obvious. There might be a perfect 3 cards there for you. You can bid 3, knowing that your opponent isn't going to bid 4. So sometimes, it's not often, the decisions are fairly obvious. But I suppose that's to be expected with a game of this scale. You can only bid up to a maximum of 5 anyway. Therefore, it's quite rigid. In general, I find the engagement for this game very good. It's a fast game. The box says 15 to 30 minutes, which I think is accurate. There's not too much downtime because the turns are punchy, and it's just kind of one decision after another, really. Again, sometimes you can get locked out of rounds because there's just not much you can do, but the turns take such a quick time that it's not really going to make you lose interest. In terms of scalability, it's kind of a strange one, because I wouldn't really play this game at 2, and I think the decisions are fairly obvious in that respect. When it comes to 3, it gets a lot more interesting, again, especially because there is only 1 card of each type. But I do like the fact that when you do play with 4 or 5 players, everybody is building their towers at different paces, which makes the bidding a little bit more interesting. But it does mean that the player order is so important, because if you are on par with another player and you start the bid off of 4, you know that nobody else is going to bid 5, really. So again, you can kind of find yourself kind of languishing and not really having much stroke or much power when it's not you as an early player in the turn order. The replayability with this game is what you'd expect from a small box filler game. There's no variability or things like this. You're always just reacting tactically to the cards available to you, and it is a true filler in that respect. And the production with this game is absolutely what I'd expect for a game like this. I think the distinctiveness and the uniqueness of each of the 5 towers is really well done, because you can clearly differentiate one from the other. There's no colorblind issues at all, and the towers actually look really cool when you start to build them nice and high, and they have lots of little kind of Easter eggs in them as well. You can see you've got the little xenomorph and stuff on this artwork. Card quality is generally good. I think they are linen finished. So yeah, I've got no issue at all. It comes in a nice little succinct package, and that's not going to take up much space on your shelf. Okay, so let's share some final thoughts on 5 towers. Now, in general, I'm a fan of kind of bidding and auction style games, and I like how this one feels so different due to that hybrid nature of the tower building itself, plus the simple but different bidding system where you don't actually have a currency to spend. You're just deciding how many cards you are willing to take. And that ties really well into the interaction with the other players, and kind of taking that leap of faith, sometimes making huge skips in your numbers to maybe start building the upper end of your tower while your opponents are squabbling over the lower or the higher numbers to start building a stronger foundation. So I do like that push and pull. Do I want to try and sit back and build a really tall tower and score points that way? Or do I want to go, you know what, screw it, let's go straight for those higher numbers, or lower numbers I should say, and hopefully get those final pieces to double the strength of my towers. It all comes together really well. There's good decisions. Sometimes the rounds are more interesting than others because you are going to be heavily scrutinizing what's there and looking at the other players. Are they going to bid 4? Should I bid 4? Even though I don't want 4 cards, but I might want to lock my opponent out of taking these 4 cards and tear one of my towers down so I could build it. Tearing towers down is going to result in more negative points. So again, there are little kind of wrinkles of decisions to be made here, especially when you add in those 9 and 8 cards to really throw a spanner in the works. And it's just a nice, punchy, fast filler game that I enjoy a lot. So if you like these styles of games that I do, again, I like those kind of games where you're putting these cards in numerical order and deciding how big of a gap you're willing to do, but not being able to fill in a middle. It reminds me of a game like Ohanami, which is one of my favourite filler games. So if you like games like that, I'm pretty sure you'll like this one. It's going to be a low commitment game. It's very small, very affordable, and it's a good solid filler that I enjoy a lot. So that is 5 towers. Check this one out.